Anger. Are you able to understand the true source of your anger? Well, let's explore this on today's Ask a Shrink. Anger is a tough one. I see this many times with my clients in private practice. Also for me, with my own therapist, getting to the root source of anger, working with it, feeling it, understanding what it's all about can be a tough one. It's a feeling we'd rather push away. What I notice with a lot of clients is they begin to work with anger, express it, know the source of it perhaps, but then they feel all discombobulated, almost scared of the anger because they can go from 0 to 100 just like this. Well, if you weren't helped with anger growing up, if it wasn't safe for you to talk about your feelings, explore your feelings, share your feelings, act out your feelings, whatever it is, and you had to repress all that, so it makes sense that as an adult, when maybe you're in a relationship or you have a best friend or something, conflict may come up a bit. You don't know how to express your anger if you are indeed angry. So then maybe you try, you tiptoe into it, and then all of a sudden you go from being mildly pissed off to I'm furious. And then you wonder what that's all about, and then that makes you afraid of anger. It makes you say, I don't want to deal with anger. I don't know how to work with it. I just lost a boyfriend or a girlfriend because of my anger. So then typically people do the opposite of what they need to do at that point. They block anger even more instead of trying to understand it non-judgmentally, knowing it probably ties into your childhood. Well, when you get a red flag like that, when you go from 0 to 100, that's a wonderful thing because there's so much for you to learn in terms of your underlying issues. And it's important in getting to the true source of it. Now, what do I mean by that? So here's kind of a random example. Let's say there's a gambler-holic out there. He's addicted to gambling. He loses some money at the poker table. Now he's mad at the dealer. I lost. Is the anger really about the dealer? No, it's because he's angry at himself for going to the casino that particular day. So then he thinks about it, which is good. He's going to an underlying reason, and he comes up with an underlying reason of, well, truth be told, I'm not really angry at the dealer. I'm angry because my son, my teenage son, was acting out today, and he was just all over the map, and he was making me upset, so I had to get away. So I decided to go to the casino and do a little gambling. So now he's thinking, I'm mad at my son. Is that really who he's mad about? He thinks he dug a little bit, and he did, but he could go even a bit deeper. And let's say he does, and he realized it's not about my son. Truth be told, when I really analyze it, it's because I even have kids. I have a son. I didn't want any kids. When I was dating my wife-to-be back then when we were engaged, I told her I did not want any children. She said she agreed. We got married. Within 1 month, she announces to me she's pregnant. Aha, so we have even a deeper reason here when you follow things back. He hasn't dealt with his anger about being trapped in fatherhood. Aha, he thinks he's gotten to the source. Well, in a way he has. He's done a lot of work here. But if he goes back even a little further and wanting to understand the whole picture, which is always going to be a helpful thing, he's realizing that the reason he didn't want children is because he was abused as a child, physically abused by his own father. Aha, so now he's gotten to the real true source, which is played out in different steps in all of his adult life. Many different layers that led up to the gambling issue, right? Anger is a secondary emotion. In this case, the real emotion is probably hurt and deep sadness. So by never dealing with the physical abuse that he went through for several years as a child, it now has played out in his life in a variety of ways. And this is why it's so important to get to the root of our emotions. In this case, the root of anger. Anger is a great emotion because it's a release. It's a normal, healthy emotional reaction to something that's upsetting us. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not an emotion or a feeling to be afraid of. But you have to remember, anger takes place in the present moment. So when you're upset about something, deal with it at the moment. When it's not dealt with at the moment, then it becomes repressed, pushed away, and then it can grow even more. Then we may bury it and forget that it's even there, although of course it's always really there and actually unconsciously directing us. And then also by dealing with it, it won't turn into other little side effect emotions like bitterness, resentment, a general pissed off attitude towards the world. So you want to feel it at the present time, know that you're feeling it, and share that. Now, when I said it's a secondary emotion, that's because usually it is. It's there to cover up, to help us deal with, especially for a kid, to help us deal with the more core emotion, which is more vulnerable, it's more tender. We don't want to look at it or feel it, and that's usually deep hurt. For example, being abandoned by a parent. somehow feeling not good enough on some level, or being scared shitless. You're really scared. Something's frightening the heck out of you. Maybe you're a 10-year-old boy and you're witnessing domestic violence by your parents. The police are coming. You're scared to death. You see your mother bleeding. But rather than deal with that fear, which is the primary emotion, and hurt as well, obviously, to defend against those more vulnerable feelings, the child, or sometimes the adult, will more readily feel anger. That's an easier feeling, so to speak, to get in touch with. With anger, our ego can be strong and we're going to take control of the situation. We can have our temper tantrum. And sometimes we need to do that. So that's not a bad thing in and of itself, but it's important to look underneath that at the more vulnerable feelings, which are really what it's about. And typically inadequacy, fear, and deep hurt. Because the anger gives you a sense of control and power, right? You're reclaiming your control. You've been so hurt, let's say, by a boyfriend or a girlfriend who broke up with you, deeply wounded. It's crushing you, but you're not going to show it. But by gosh, you're going to be angry at that ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend. That's a bit of pride there too, right? Because it's easier to say to the ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend, I'm pissed off at you, how dare you break up with me? Versus what's really going on is that they're emotionally crushed, they're in love, and their heart is broken. So as you're working with this, perhaps find creative, healthy ways to discharge the anger. You want to get it out of you, so to speak. We don't want to keep that dark emotion in us, but by the way, there's something wrong with the emotion. It's just simply that we don't want to keep that in us. So we have to find creative ways to expel it. That can be journaling, as I mentioned earlier, talking to a therapist, beating pillows together. Some of my clients have gone out and bought punching bags, or they go to the gym and they punch a punching bag. Getting an axe in your backyard and chopping wood. Throwing things safely, maybe out in your backyard or in the woods. Art, writing. There's so many creative ways to work with this emotion. And of course, verbally putting it into words to the person who's hurt you or made you feel inadequate or caused you fear. And by using those words, let's say it's to your mother who's long divorced, moved away, she didn't really raise you well at all. Now you're going to visit her, you're 35 years old, she's in her 70s, you have felt anger, but also include that the real emotion for that child that had to live through this is you were deeply hurt when she walked away, didn't parent you, or paid attention more to her friends or her new husband or new boyfriend, whatever it is. That causes hurt in the child, and that's the primary emotion. You see your boyfriend or girlfriend over there talking to somebody else, you're at a party. They've both been drinking. They're being a little flirty with each other. They're getting angry. Well, the anger is covering up the jealous feelings of being inadequate. So now you're feeling it. Deal with it then if you can. So it could be something completely innocent, but you need to find out. But you also need to identify those hurt, inadequate feelings and be very aware of those. Make space for those. Notice that you did feel it in your body. You talked about it. You expressed it. This is a healthy way to work with uncomfortable feelings. So leave me some thoughts below. I'd love to hear any comments you may have about how you deal with anger in your life. Please subscribe to my mental health YouTube channel if you like these kind of videos. And until next week, this is Brad Shore signing off from Ask a Shrink.